What is up everyone, welcome back for another video. Last week I made a video on how to crush the line for Sattlers, breaking wave on McCoy's Chute Rapid on the Ottawa River, and as I was watching back through it, doing the edit, I kind of realized there was some information I had somewhat left out of that video, like if you and I were going downstream and that video was like me telling you all the information you need to know about how to run the line. I would have told you a couple more bits of information if that was your first time running something like that before, about how to paddle through breaking waves. And that's what I want to talk about in this video today, is just a few strategies, tips and tricks that you can employ when you're kayaking through breaking waves, whether they're bigger breaking waves like Sattlers or smaller breaking waves that you might come across on other rivers elsewhere, and some general ideas on good things to know about when you are encountering that type of river feature. So as I talked about in that video last week on Sattlers, breaking waves can be erratic, and sometimes they're green and they're just going to allow you to pass through, and sometimes they're breaking and white and foamy, and sometimes they might even break right on you, and that can really slow you down. So we need to anticipate when we're coming into a breaking wave what that's going to do to us, if that's going to slow us down, and then try and plan ahead and preempt that slowdown. And bear in mind, it might not slow us down at all. We might get a totally green face and just pass through without being our speed affected at all. So what I like to think about is when I'm approaching a breaking wave, I try and speed up a little bit, because I'm just anticipating that worst case scenario, it's going to crash right on me and I'm going to lose all my speed. If I'm going roughly the same speed as the water, or kind of as fast as I can to match that speed, if that wave crashes on me, I'm just going to slow down a little bit. If I'm drifting like kind of slower than the water and then that wave crashes on me, it's more likely that I'm going to get flipped upside down, and then I'm in a less controlled situation than I was when I'm right side up, right? I've got to take the time to roll back up, I've got to figure out which way I'm pointing, I've got to figure out where I'm going next. It's going to make a bunch of downstream problems for us that we can avoid if we're carrying speed. So that's kind of thing number one. Think about carrying speed into those breaking waves so you preempt that situation where you might get flipped upside down. Next thing to think about is all about weight management. So when I talked about that Sattlers line, I talked about pointing our bow quite aggressively to the right so that we'd travel through it perpendicular. It's not always possible that you're going to go through a breaking wave kind of teed up to it, and it's possible sometimes that you're just going to be in a situation where those waves are coming at you from left and from right, and you don't know what to do, and they're going to be hitting you from all sides. And so what I say to people is you've got to lean into the wave when it's coming at you. Now, I want to be kind of clear here what I mean by that. I'm putting my body weight into that wall of water that's coming onto me, and that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be left or right or forwards. It might be like kind of slight diagonal, and it might not be as aggressive as like way over here. It might just be as much as like just dipping one shoulder, so that when that wave crashes onto you, it's just going to push your body back to central. But if you start at central and then it crashes on you, now it's going to push you over. So that again can lead to a number of potential downstream problems that we're going to be avoiding just by leaning ever so slightly, dipping that shoulder into that oncoming wave. If you're in a situation where you've got spun around and there's like waves coming at you from all sides, you just need to start reacting, see where that next wave's coming from, and just hedge your bet a little bit by putting a little bit more weight into it. You're not going to be trying to like hammer all of your body weight as hard over as you can, because if you hit that breaking wave and it goes green, then that might like kind of off balance you, and then you're going to just topple over, which is very funny for people who are watching you run that line, but it's actually not ideal. And again, you're going to be back in that situation of downstream consequences where you've got to take the time to roll up and figure out where you are and figure out where you're going, and it's totally avoidable if you just commit a little bit of your weight, just enough so that if it hits you, you're going to get pushed back to center, but not so much that if it doesn't hit you, you're going to topple over because you're anticipating a hit that never arrived. The last tip I usually tell people with breaking waves that I find very useful and I use a lot is to try and reach your paddle through the breaking wave, so it's going to be pulling on the downstream side of it, and pull yourself through that wave. And if you think about like that braking wave is going up and down like this, right? It's inconsistent. So if you can jam your paddle through and pull yourself through that braking wave, the water on the downstream side of it is usually more consistent. You've reached through that point where it's like braking and braking, and if you can get your paddle dug in on that far side, that's where the stable water is. So you're going to be able to get a more stable pull and pull yourself through that wave and just kind of be more stable throughout the whole process. And again, sometimes as you're reaching out, that wave's going to break on you. You're not going to get a really solid pull, but you can get something. And as I talked about in that video about not flipping your kayak again, the more you can be going forwards, the more you can get those forward strokes in, the more stable you're going to be. So if you're already thinking about it before you approach that braking wave, it's going to make it a lot easier for you. So there's just 3 quick tips on paddling through braking waves, and kind of as a supplement to that Sattlers video if you're on the Ottawa and you're going to be running that Sattlers line this weekend or next weekend, next time you're there. So hopefully this helps you out, and I will see you in a future video. Peace.